Hello everyone. Based on the title of this video, you probably already know what we are going to be discussing. And it's not a good topic to say the least, but it's something that was a big reason as to why I think a lot of Destiny players quit or had a very negative opinion of Destiny that sort of really hurt the game's reputation, but it was a big reason as to why Destiny is kind of failing at this point, and I wanted to discuss it. We're going to be talking about the topic of sunsetting, and if you are curious why I have the Beyond Light trailer playing in the background, that's because this is when sunsetting came in. Sunsetting came in around November 2020 time with the release of the Beyond Light DLC, and they had a lot of the developers had a lot of views of sunsetting and the story they gave on it, which we kind of were a little bit mixed on the reviews in terms of what they gave us from sunsetting, and then obviously when it came out, it was horrible. Let me just give you some context. When they discussed the topic of sunsetting, I think the thing they compared sunsetting to was Taken King back in D1. Because with the release of Taken King, you were mainly using the new gear and weapons. That's because the new gear and weapons were actually good, and the funny thing is, you could still play the old content that was back then. You could still play Dark Below, House of Wolves, and the vanilla campaign. With sunsetting, when they introduced it, they completely vaulted all the different planets that you could play on: Io, Mars, Mercury, and basically, you can never play those anymore. You can't even play the Red War campaign because that had all the planets in them, and you basically couldn't get any of the old gear. And also, they introduced a thing where the gear would get capped after, like, I think a few seasons. So you could use the new gear, but then after a few seasons, I think it was 3 or 4 seasons, that gear would get capped in its power, and then you would have to grind new gear to replace it. This was obviously not a great system to introduce, because basically it forced you to use the newest weapons that were available. And if a good example is Mountaintop. I was using Mountaintop a lot back in D2. I grinded for the weapon, I got it, and I loved it. It was incredible for PvE and PvP. Then with Beyond Light, you noticed that like grey symbol that was covering the gun on the top left, I think. That basically said that the gun was sunset. And you couldn't increase the power level further beyond that, which means I can't bring it into high level activities, I can't bring it into nightfalls, stuff like that. And that really hurt the, I guess, reputation and trust between the community, because like if you're spending time grinding for a weapon and then you're being told, well, hey, it's going to be useless after a few seasons, and then you have to grind over and over again, that kind of hurts. Because especially with grinding things like Mountaintop and Luna's Howl, Not Forgotten, like those weapons you had to grind for. Those weapons were, it was peak PvP for me, and I tried putting in a lot of effort to try and get those weapons. I couldn't get Luna's Howl. I was very close, but I didn't hit, I think what was the final rank? It was after Fabled. I think it was Legend. I could be wrong. But I didn't hit Legend, and I didn't get Luna's Howl. But I did get the Mountaintop, and when I got it, I loved it. The issue that sunsetting brought was it made the grinds that you had done before useless, and that was really upsetting to hear, because it was not anything like Taken King. The reason why Taken King worked in terms of, I guess it's called like soft sunsetting, what Taken King did, but Taken King brought new weapons that were actually really good and really nice, and it didn't shit on any of the old weapons that you had. You could still use the old weapons that you had, bring it into new activities, and you could still raise the power, you could still use them, and you wouldn't get shit on for keeping the old stuff. It's different because, like I said before, in D2, your old stuff was capped because of their sunsetting system. And you know what I did because of sunsetting? I deleted some really old shit that I used to have in my vault. I think I had like a Dusk Rock Blues, which had a semi-decent role. I think I deleted some other old roles that had the sunsetting symbol on it. And it was so frustrating to bear witness, because I think a few months later or a few seasons later, they backtracked and they said, look, sorry guys, we can't return your old gear that you deleted. And that was really annoying, because I wanted to keep the old stuff that I had, the memories of me getting those weapons and how hard I grinded for them just to try and get a decent roll is now gone because I deleted it, because they pushed sunsetting and I thought they were going to go for it for forever. And then they reversed their decision on sunsetting, and now it's really messed up, because all that time I spent grinding the old shit is gone. All the weapons, all the memories gone because I deleted it from my vault because of sunsetting, and I cannot get it back. And that really soured my taste on Bungie, and it really made the feeling very bitter. They reversed the decision after a lot of backlash, and thankfully so. I think the lead dev at the time also quit, and they changed with some other dude. I'm not familiar with the name, so I don't know, but I definitely think I remember someone quitting at the time, and then giving their position away to someone else. But yeah, that was very annoying. And I mean, it's very complicated with D2 specifically. There's two problems mainly to this. One, that it's a live service game, and two, that there's no voting or polling system for the community to get involved in. I've been preaching for both of these in my previous videos that I made, and I feel like the two big things that really have hurt Destiny, that have led to this sunsetting issue, is firstly, the fact that it's live service. The reason why is because in a live service game, you're always, you're trying to keep the game alive by releasing new content and so on. Destiny 2, I swear to God, if Destiny 2 had all 20-something seasons, all the DLCs remaining, and the vanilla campaign, my PS5 would blow up. Literally, anything I would boot up on Destiny 2 would blast off into space, because the storage, there is no way Destiny 2 would be able to run with that much storage. I think the game would be literally 2,000 gigabytes based on all of the content that they released in its lifespan. And I kind of get the reason as to why they sort of introduced sunsetting, but at the same time, there's got to be a more efficient way to release the content to make it less storage. Like, take games like Warframe, for example, that have done a really good job. They've kept, literally, last time I played was like a year ago or so. I could still play all the old stuff, and they're still keeping it up to live service. And it's crazy to see. I can play all the old stuff, and I can play the new stuff, and I can have a good time with all the old weapons and the new weapons. And the game is literally like less than 100 gigabytes, I think, in total. And it's a really crazy thing to see. It just shows you how inefficient Bungie is at dealing with download size and their storage systems. And it really hurts. It really hurts the community, because then you get decisions like sunsetting coming across. And it's just something that, if they were to release Destiny 3, dealing with the storage needs to be a big thing, because if they don't want to make it live service to sort of avoid this issue, they need to be able to find a way to make the storage more efficient. And so that's just something I have in thought for Destiny 3 that could come up. But the other issue I wanted to tackle was that there was no community involvement. There was no way for us to say no earlier in development. They literally just said, hey, we're going to introduce sunsetting, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we paid the price, because there was no way we could get involved, apart from obviously paying the price with our wallets and time. And, well, the backlash came in, and then they reversed it after a few seasons, and it was just such a bad decision, man. I genuinely don't know how they didn't decide to get the community more involved in this type of decision making. It would have been so much more. I feel like it's so interesting to me how developers like Bungie don't get their community involved. People like if you've played D1, you can say it. You've played like thousands of hours on D1. If you have thousands of hours on D1, or let alone hundreds of hours, like you are dedicated to the game. You should have an opinion on the game. You probably know more than developers do in terms of how the game feels, because you're engaged with the content almost every day. That's the kind of life we had back then in D1, and that's the kind of life we had during Forsaken. But yeah, I think this all could have easily been avoided with community voting, which didn't happen because, I don't know, I guess gaming companies hate it. And the issue of live service games having lots of storage, that's, I guess, what happened. Season passes and battle passes cause these issues. When you introduce stories and these battle passes and exotics and stuff like that, they take up storage. And there's no way you can have 22 seasons and have it simmer down to like 50 gigabytes. That's just not possible. And so that's kind of one reason why I'm against sort of these season passes. The storage is the main big reason. You know, do you want to really play Destiny 2 or Destiny 3 and it take up 400 gigabytes? I don't think so. So that's why I kind of preferred the old DLC method, if you would. Just literally each year, one DLC, introduce a raid or dungeon with it, and at least the vibes would be, I guess, positive. But that's kind of my take on it, on sunsetting and the whole live service issue that's kind of hit gaming in a whole. I wonder if you guys agree, or if you disagree, comment down below if you feel like I missed any information on this sort of issue as well. And if you've stuck around, be sure to like and sub, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.